Before the world saw the fire, there was silence. Before the calling, there was crushing. And before God ever used him, he broke him. 20 seconds. That's all it takes to decide if you stay, or scroll away. A man wakes up in a season where everything he built begins to collapse at the same time. His confidence, gone. His plans, blocked. His relationships, fracturing without explanation. Even his prayers feel like they hit a ceiling of silence. And the terrifying part is this: he didn't do anything wrong. So he asks the question that burns at 3 a.m. when no one is watching. God, why is this happening to me? But heaven doesn't answer in words. It answers in pressure. Day by day, the weight increases. Doors close that used to open easily. People he trusted begin to walk away. Opportunities disappear right before his eyes. And everything in him screams the same thing: this is not how my life was supposed to go. And yet, this is exactly where God begins his deepest work. Because what he doesn't realize is that God is not rejecting him. God is breaking him. Not to destroy him, but to remove everything that would destroy him later. Pride that would make him fall. Ego that would blind him. Comfort that would weaken him. And illusions that made him think he was strong on his own. Because God never builds destiny on human confidence. He builds it on surrendered brokenness. And the man doesn't understand it yet. But heaven is about to rewrite everything he thought he knew about pain. There is a moment in Scripture where God reveals this pattern over and over again, not as theory, but as lived reality. Moses did not walk into purpose through comfort. He was broken in a desert for 40 years, stripped of palace identity, stripped of influence, stripped of everything that made him somebody in Egypt. 40 years of silence. 40 years of obscurity. 40 years of becoming nothing, so God could finally become everything. And when Moses finally returns, he doesn't return as a prince. He returns as a broken man carrying divine authority. And the same pattern repeats again and again. Joseph dreams of greatness, but instead of a throne, he gets a pit. Instead of applause, he gets betrayal. Instead of promotion, he gets prison. And every step feels like contradiction. How can this be God's plan, if everything is falling apart? But prison is not the end of Joseph. It is the shaping of him. Because God had to break the version of Joseph that couldn't carry Egypt. The immature dreamer had to die. So the wise ruler could be born. And then there is David. Anointed as king as a young man, but not sent to a palace. Sent to caves. Sent to isolation. Sent to run for his life. Imagine the confusion. You anointed me, but now I'm hiding. And yet, those caves were not punishment. They were preparation. Because anyone can rule with a crown. But only a broken man can rule without becoming prideful. God was not delaying David's throne. He was breaking David's heart until only dependence remained. Because God cannot entrust glory to a man still full of himself. And the man in our story, he starts to feel it now. The breaking is not random. It is intentional. It is surgical. It is precise. Because God is removing everything that would compete with him. And then the breaking goes deeper. Not just external loss, but internal collapse. Because glory has weight. Purpose has weight. Calling has weight. And what is unbroken cannot carry it. So God does something strange. He allows the collapse of what the man depended on. Money becomes unstable. People become unreliable. Confidence becomes fragile. And self-reliance slowly dies. Until one truth remains, uncomfortable but undeniable. I can't do this alone. And that is the first true prayer God answers. Not with rescue, but with surrender. Because the breaking is not meant to end the man. It is meant to end the illusion that he ever needed anything but God. And now the story turns deeper. Because Scripture shows this pattern is not just history. It is design. Jacob wrestles with God all night. He fights for control. He fights for blessing. He fights for his future. But by morning, something is different. He walks away with a limp. A permanent reminder that he did not win by strength, but by surrender. And strangely, that limp becomes his identity. Because God had to break Jacob's self-sufficiency to reveal his true dependence. I can't walk like I used to. And that is exactly the point. Because the man who walks differently, walks with God more closely. And the broken man in our story begins to realize something terrifying and beautiful at the same time. Every loss was not random. Every delay was not rejection. Every closed door was not abandonment. It was God removing what could not go into the next season. But the breaking is not finished yet. Because there is a deeper layer God still needs to touch. Character. And character is not built in comfort. It is forged in pressure. It is refined in injustice. It is tested in silence. Just like Joseph, falsely accused, forgotten, overlooked. And yet, something inside him changes in that darkness. He stops being just a dreamer. He becomes stable. Steady. Mature. Ready. Because when he finally stands before Pharaoh, there is no bitterness in him, only wisdom. No pride, only clarity. No desperation, only readiness. And Pharaoh sees it instantly. This is not a broken prisoner. This is a man prepared by something greater than prison. And that is the secret God has been working all along. Brokenness is not the end of usefulness. It is the beginning of authority. But the man still doesn't fully see it. Because pain has a way of feeling personal, even when it is spiritual. And so he cries out again in silence. God, how much more do I have to lose? And heaven responds not with explanation, but with process. Because some things cannot be explained. They must be formed. And just when it feels like nothing is left, God begins to reveal the hidden truth behind every breaking. He is not breaking the man's life. He is breaking what cannot go with him into destiny. Pride must break. Fear must break. Dependency on people must break. False identity must break. Because what remains after breaking is pure. And what is pure can carry power. And now the story pauses here. Not because it is finished, but because the breaking is still happening. And what comes next will reveal something even more intense. That God does not just break men before he uses them. He rebuilds them into something unrecognizable and unstoppable. He thought the breaking had already reached its limit. But God was only just beginning the rebuilding. Because there is a stage in every calling that feels like death, but is actually transition. A silence so deep it feels like abandonment. A pressure so heavy it feels like punishment. A stripping so complete it feels like identity loss. And yet heaven calls it something different. Preparation for glory. The man from part 1 is no longer asking simple questions anymore. He has moved beyond confusion. Now he is in the place where silence itself becomes the message. No answers. No clarity. No direction. Only dependence. And strangely, that is where something begins to shift. Because when everything false is removed, truth starts to surface. Not the truth of feelings. Not the truth of circumstances. But the truth of God's unseen hand. He remembers the stories he once read but never truly understood. Now they are no longer stories. They are his reflection. Joseph wasn't abandoned in prison. He was positioned. Moses wasn't forgotten in the desert. He was formed. David wasn't rejected in caves. He was refined. And suddenly, the man realizes something that shakes him deeply. God's silence was never absence. It was alignment. Because if God had spoken too early, he would have run ahead in pride. If God had opened doors too soon, he would have carried ego into purpose. If God had elevated him before breaking him, he would have destroyed what he was meant to build. And so God did the only thing love sometimes requires. He delayed promotion to preserve destiny. But the process is not gentle. It never is. Because rebuilding a man after breaking him is not about restoration of what was lost. It is about creation of what never existed. And now something new begins inside him. Not confidence in himself, but awareness of God. Deeper. Quieter. Stronger. It starts with small things. A peace that doesn't make sense. A strength that doesn't come from effort. A quiet conviction that he is still being guided even when nothing is visible. And then comes the shift that changes everything. He stops asking, "Why is this happening?" and starts asking, "What are you forming in me?" That is the turning point. Because the breaking that once felt like destruction now feels like design. And in that hidden place, God begins to rebuild him with something the world cannot see. Character that cannot collapse under pressure. Faith that does not depend on outcomes. Humility that cannot be inflated by success. And obedience that does not require understanding. But before promotion comes, there is always one more test. The test of waiting. Because waiting reveals what breaking only exposes. Breaking shows what is inside a man. Waiting shows what remains. Days pass. Then weeks. Then months. And nothing changes outwardly. But everything is changing inwardly. Because something in him is dying slowly. The need to control outcomes. The need to be understood. The need to be validated. And in its place, something stronger is forming. Trust without evidence. Faith without sight. Obedience without guarantee. And this is where God begins to reveal a deeper truth. The greatest miracles are not when God changes circumstances, but when he changes the man inside the circumstances. And then it happens. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But quietly. A door opens that no human could have opened. A connection appears that makes no logical sense. A direction becomes clear without explanation. And the man realizes something that makes him almost tremble. He is no longer forcing life forward. Life is moving through him. But this time, without pride. Without ego. Without self-reliance. And suddenly, everything he lost begins to make sense. Because what God removed was not his future. It was everything that would have corrupted it. But the deepest revelation still comes later. Not in success. But in reflection. Because now he understands something terrifying and beautiful. God did not break him to make him strong. God broke him to make him safe. Safe to carry responsibility. Safe to carry influence. Safe to carry impact. Safe to carry glory without self-destruction. And then Scripture becomes alive in a way it never was before. The clay in the potter's hand must be crushed, softened, reshaped again and again. Not because the potter is cruel, but because the vessel must survive fire. And then he sees the ultimate pattern. The final revelation. The center of everything. Jesus. Not untouched. Not unbroken. But broken. His body broken. His reputation rejected. His strength drained. His life poured out. And yet that breaking became the greatest release of power in history. Because through his broken body came salvation. Through his suffering came redemption. Through his death came life. And suddenly the man understands. If even Jesus was broken before glory, then why would I expect another path? And something inside him finally settles. The resistance stops. The confusion fades. The struggle against God's process loosens. Not because the pain disappears, but because meaning has finally arrived. And now the breaking that once felt like rejection feels like invitation. Invitation into purpose. Invitation into maturity. Invitation into alignment with something eternal. And for the first time, he stops asking God to remove the process. And starts asking God to complete it. Because he understands now. Unbroken men may look strong, but they cannot carry eternal weight. Only broken men can. And then comes the final transformation. Not a loud moment. Not a dramatic shift. But a quiet becoming. He no longer reacts the same way. He no longer fears the same things. He no longer chases validation. He no longer fights for identity. Because identity is no longer something he builds. It is something he receives. And in that place of surrender, God entrusts him with something new. Influence without pride. Strength without arrogance. Authority without corruption. And the world sees him again. But not as he once was. Something about him is different. Calmer. Heavier. Quieter. Stronger. Not because life became easier, but because he became surrendered. And this is the mystery the world rarely understands. God does not use perfect men. He uses broken men who stayed in his hands. And now the story closes where it began. Not with comfort, but with truth. If you are in a season where everything feels like it is falling apart, if what you built is shaking, if what you trusted is fading, if what you prayed for feels delayed, it may not be rejection. It may be construction. Because God does not waste breaking. He only uses it. And the same hands that break a man are the hands that rebuild him into purpose. So the question is no longer, why is this happening to me? But instead, will I let God finish what he started in me? Because the men he breaks are the very men he uses. And if this message found you in the middle of your own breaking season, don't resist the process. Let it shape you. Let it refine you. Let it rebuild you. Because what comes after breaking is always purpose. This is Light Up Faith.